Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Branding is super important to any startup. And I think branding is also, sorry, just give me 1 second. Sorry. Can you disable screen sharing there, Deborah, for a moment? Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Branding is super important for any company, but lots of people misunderstand it. When you think branding, you think a cool emoji and some lifestyle images for my website, but it goes right back to the essential mission and purpose of your company. Now, at SeedLegals, branding and mission, purpose, and so on is super important. And you probably see me a lot on social and doing webinars and events and SeedLegals branding everywhere, but I am an amateur at this. So today, I'm delighted to be talking to an expert. I'm hoping to learn as much as you are on building a strong brand for your company. Now, in some cases, what you're building is unique technically. If you're building some LLM, AI, fusion system, branding may be less an issue. But if you're doing a new beer or a car or an app or a dating app or something that is a consumer product, branding may well be everything. And it's not just branding for consumers, it's the investors who are going to perceive right at the beginning, if you're able to create a strong brand, then they will see that your customers will be able to get inspired by it and you'll get differentiation and stick out. And if you can't create that strong brand, even in your pitch materials, they may well perceive that you won't be able to cut through the noise later. So without further ado, let me introduce Deborah, an expert in this area. Deborah, tell us about yourself, and then we'll hand over to you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, everyone. It's a bit overwhelming how many people we have on the call. So, yeah, no pressure. I'm going to start right away, and I'll introduce myself a bit later on. There's an awful lot to do because it's a massive subject, and I've condensed it down into, like Anthony said, 47 slides, but we're going to whiz right through that. And I'm sure there'll be parts of the discipline that I'll miss because I haven't got the time to go deeper. And if anyone wants to know more about any of the areas, then just pop it in the chat. I'm joined with by two of my designers, and they're keeping an eye on me. So let me share my screen. Okay. And can everyone...
We're currently seeing a black screen.
Are you? Let me see. Can you see that?
Yes, we're good.
All right. Okay. Okay, off we go. So I think we're all on the call, so we all know the value of a strong brand, and the stats say it. For you, if you get it right early on, you attract 50%. You get 50% more attraction from investors, and I think, why aren't more of us thinking about the brand? And I think it's because sometimes people think it's the secret of big business, and or they just really don't understand how to do that. And it's not surprising. There's so many confusing signals out there that but anyway, that's why I'm here today. Is I'm here to show you how. I've been in the big corporate world, and I'm bringing those sort of secrets, or they're not secrets, but I'm bringing that thinking so that you can set yourself out on the right track. I'm aware that some of you may not even have a product or a business, and you've just got an idea and you're sort of communicating your idea through a pitch deck or something. One of the tools the film industry use is the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. And we've created a very simple hero's journey for you as a founder. And what it does is it creates a structure about your story, and that can persuade, because it encourages you to write about all the little details and the successes, the failures, and they add colour to what you're saying to your investors or whoever you're talking to. George Lucas used this for Star Wars, so it's a classic, and I think it would be very useful for you, even if you're not going into the branding process. So today we're going to talk about brand and what that means, so that we're all on the same hymn sheet, if you like, and then we'll go into the thinking, the brand strategy, and then into your brand identity. We're not be talking about logos or websites today, I'm afraid. We're talking about below the surface, and it's this foundational work that creates that value. You know, the 50% more attraction, the trust, and the loyalty. Often people start up here above the surface. I just need a quick logo. I mean, we have clients saying that to us all the time. Anyway, so where I come from is a big corporate media company. It was a global powerhouse, and we probably watched all the programs, Peaky Blinders, Big Brother, MasterChef. And we were also responsible for the corporate rebrand, which went across 31 territories. It took 5 years, so it was a massive job. And then I set up Studio Bright Green in 2020 at the beginning of lockdown, and we worked on a COVID-19 vaccine awareness campaign with the World Health Organization, and we raised 19 million in 3 months. So it was one of their most successful campaigns. And the premise was, if we were rich enough in the West to have a vaccine, you gave $5, go give one, give $5 to people who couldn't afford it. And we continued to work with big clients. We work with clients from all over different sectors, and the principles of branding are the same. So if I'm doing my job properly here, I want to inspire you to think big. Branding is not the secret of big business. Well, it won't be after this. And I want to help you lay your foundation early. You know, start thinking about it early. And I can hear you saying, I haven't got time, you know, I just need something quickly. I know, I've been there, and I've got that T-shirt. Fine, it might not be the right time, but we're going to give you the framework of what the process involves, and then you can make up your own mind. So to start, let's just make sure we all understand what a brand is, because it's so commonly used, and it's very little understood in our experience. If anyone wants to put anything in the chat, do. But from our perspective, we are asked all the time for, you know, just give me a logo. I just need something quick. You know, our competitors are doing it like that. We want to look like them. And really, you need to step back and understand why you need that. I mean, I was working with a client last week, and we created a product brand for him. And I said, you know, your corporate brand needs doing. It's, you know, it's out of sync. And he said, no, I don't. I just need my product. I just need it. So we created the product brand, and it looked better than the master brand. And he phoned me up the next day and said, oh, I think I need a rebrand. So people do come at it, but they come through the back door. And if you ask yourself why you need a logo, because there will a goal, you will have business goals to achieve. You know, a logo or a website's not going to get that, you know, 50% greater investment. You miss out on this fantastic opportunity. And I've done tons of masterclasses over the years, and this is my favorite definition of a brand. It's a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. And this is by a chap called Marty Neimer, and he runs masterclasses with a guy called Andy Starr. And I've worked with Sarah Robb and lots of other guys, people out there. And this is, for me, this is the best definition. And just to illustrate it, you know, if I gave you 1,000K to buy a car, things pop into your head, and those are the associations. So, you know, the Volvo is the safe one, the Porsche is the sporty one. Brands invest so much time into creating that association, and successful brands, that's where they focus. This is the focus. And that means that it doesn't matter how good your product is if it doesn't mean anything to your customer. They've got to take it on board. It's what they say it is. And then they become the most valuable asset to your brand. They are the advocates, and they become a tribe, and they do all your work for you. And then in turn, the customer creates the value in the brand for the business. And this is not such a good example, because Coke's been going for years, and you know, we've all not been going for years, but it just is quite a nice illustration of brand value. So, you know, Coca-Cola is worth 120 billion, but if you took away the brand value, it's only worth 50 billion, well, only 50 billion. But, you know, the brand value is more valuable than the market cap. So if you start early, you can start putting these foundations in place. And this is how we do it. We do it with brand strategy. So we're still under the surface here. We're not in the visuals. And brand strategy shapes those associations. So we can't control what people think about your product. But what we can do is we can influence them. And strategy's everywhere. You know, everyone's a strategist. It's everywhere. So no wonder people are confused. But we're focusing on brand strategy and business strategy. These two underpin every other strategy. And they are cohesive, they go hand in hand, but there is a difference. The business strategy, you're focused on goals and focus, whereas the brand strategy is focused on why people should care. You know, why do they exist? Who are we? How do we behave? What do we do? And the brand strategy is the part that sort of shapes those associations. So if you do start above the surface with the immediate needs of the logo and the website, you don't have your strategy in place. So there's no foundation. So you make your elements and there's nothing tying in. There's no stake in the ground. And therefore there's no association in people's minds and no growth. If you do start below the surface, you create your brands, your thinking, which is sort of influencing your customers, and then you create a consistent brand identity on top of that, and then you start to craft a brand people care about. And that's where, you know, I said they're advocates, they become your tribe, they create the growth for your business. I mean, this is so simplistic, but what we've done is we've created a brand strategy sheet, and we can share this with you at the end of the webinar. So you need to ask yourself 4 questions. Why do you exist? Who are you? How do you behave? And what do you do? And the input, the stuff you gather to answer those questions comes from 3 insights. and that's your customer and your competitor and or competitors and your company. So the customer ensures you're relevant to them, and you need to differentiate from your competitor, and you need to be authentic to yourself. And you end up with a one strategic statement. Now, I've used Airbnb because everyone knows them, and you can relate immediately to, instead of trying to work this out. But so they exist to enable this global belonging. They're inclusive and trustworthy innovators. They're open, respectful. They foster connection, and they connect. The functional benefits are they connect hosts and travelers. So it's cost effective for the traveler, and the host can earn money. Notice here I started with why. People don't buy the functional benefits, they buy why it matters to them. And then the three insights are the customer. So it's relevant to me because it's affordable, and I can stay in a local city and pretend I live there. It's different because I could stay in a tree house. It's different to the traditional accommodation. And then you can belong anywhere with these unique stays. And then the strategic statement comes out of all of that information, and every single word is meaningful. They're like gifts to your audience. There's no jargon. It's all very crafted. And that sheet underpins everything they do. And so your brand strategy must be relevant to your audience. It must be sufficiently differentiated from your competition and authentic. And that the questions we can give you afterwards, we've created these in a simplistic way for you to start thinking about this. And I mean, as small business and startups, you've probably done some of this work. And if you haven't, I'm sure you can find people in your network or across social media, and you can ask them if they wouldn't mind filling in. There's not many questions, and people, in my experience, people don't mind. They quite like to help. And then your competitor audit. I'm sure you've done this, but our questions are from a brand strategy perspective. So you may have done this from the sort of business perspective. This is from your brand, why people should care perspective. And we've got a list of places you can go and have a look to do that. And this is about you, how you're authentic to yourself, and why people should care. I'm sorry if I'm going so fast, but there's a lot to do. But to recap all of this, then, brand strategy is intricately linked. They're entwined to your brand identity. I'm saying this because I've been in agency meetings, and strategists have presented strategy, and I think, oh, great, that's a really good idea. That's interesting. And then designers present the brand identity, and it's like, it's a complete disconnect. So it's got to all be as one. And I'm just reminding you here that we're still underneath, we're still below the surface. And most of our work, most of the visuals that we do, 80–90% of our work is underneath the surface. And so that leads us into the brand identity. And this is the collection of signals that help to reinforce your brand strategy. And these signals, these are the things that shape the associations in your customers' minds. We call them brand elements. And this is your logo, your color palette, your typography, your tone of voice, your narrative, your user experience, everything that sort of, all the elements that make up your brand. Again, I mean, for simplicity, I'm using Airbnb, but the color palette is warm. The photography is engaging. You sort of, they take images of real people in real places. The messaging, the tone of voice is it's welcoming, and it makes you feel like you belong. The stories are welcoming. They talk about sort of individuals, and they sort of talk about individual stories. It's all like home from home. And this, you remember I showed you that they're sort of 4 questions, 3 insights, 1 statement. This is their Bible, if you like. This is their strategy that sort of allows them to do this. And because they've got this in place, they are consistent across everything they do, because it all comes from here. So the action from what I've just said is, I hope you can see how you must establish the brand strategy first. I'm sure people have been creating brand elements. I would suggest you create a visual audit of everything, pitch documents, everything you've done, your website, your logos, colors, everything, wherever you are communicating with people, and try and get that on a board. If you've got like a sort of overview, you can then assess your signals. And then if you do answer the questions we give you, and you could start to create your sheet, your brand strategy sheet, you can then start to gauge where there is any disconnect. And so the things that we're going to give you, I say it's Flora and Nick are on the call too, and they've worked very hard. Hero's story structure, and we're going to give you the 3 insight forms for your customer, your competitor, and your company, and the strategy sheet. So in conclusion, ask yourself why you need a logo or a website. It's more than, a brand is more than just your product or service. It's the gut feeling, and you want to be able to craft that or influence it with your signals, and it's the strategy underneath everything that sort of is the glue, if you like, and it means that when you sort of communicate, you speak with authority, with confidence, and it's consistent. Your messages are consistent because they always go back to your strategic statement. And the stats earlier said, was it 81% of people buy from brands they trust? Well, these are the stakes in the ground that will help you build that. And it's not going to happen overnight. You could start to craft this strategic sheet, but a brand isn't an organization, a static organ. It's more like an organism. It sort of evolves. You've got to keep moving ahead. You can't stand still, otherwise someone else is going to come and eat you. So you've got to keep it flowing, it fluid, and so you'll go back and forth, and I just had to add this quote because I don't know if anyone's heard of Simon Sinek. There's a great TED talk, and he brought out a book called People Buy Why You Do It. I've spoken to lots of founders, and they're very good at telling me about the product. It's this light, and it does this, and it features this and does that, but they fail to tell me why it matters to me. Why do I care? And I think if you can have this in the back of your mind when you're speaking to people, forget the jargon. Just make sure you communicate why your product, your business, your service, your idea matters to your customer. And so that is the whistle stop tour of branding. I can't hear you, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for a beautiful, calm, measured presentation for an activity that is usually frenetic and everyone shouting and running all over the show. And in a day which is busy with endless number of things, it was almost ASMR. So for those who joined this, I would think the majority would think that branding was all about some logos and colors and nice designs for the website. So the key purpose for me for having this session is to change everyone's thinking into I like the below the line and above the line. And what I really like is let's just go quickly through the key 4 things that you went through, which is why you exist, who you are, how you behave, and what you do. And what I really like, and for those thinking about engaging and changing their brand or developing a brand from the start, this is a fantastic team activity because it's not just about the brand, it's about the very, reason and essence of your company. So you can get together with the entire team to go through these things. And as I said at the beginning, I'm kind of amateur at this. I've got a vision. My colleagues, my co-founder have got a vision on how we behave. We've never thought it through in any great way. So let's start with, why you exist. And of course, I'll take some of our SeedLegals examples. I'm not selling or pushing anything on SeedLegals, but the idea is the people went to lawyers. We want to change that. So then that's your purpose. And of course, it's to do with always on. And then you develop the themes around that. And then I think to me, it's what I love doing is let's look at what a law firm website would look like. And then we can do completely the opposite. So even from the basis of the font, those serif fonts that look like a legal document to bright colors, smiley faces, people, and everything develops from that theme. So if you're trying to disrupt insurance, banking, making new drones, you're going to think right from the beginning, who's the existing one? What are you trying to do? And when I look at sites, and I'm sure everybody does, you probably don't realize it yourself, but you're forming a view instantly on the tagline, the brand, the fonts, and all the things that you see. And if it doesn't align with what is the thing you're looking for or what you perceive the service is going to provide, then there's a dissonance and you're out. And what I like doing is I like checking out all my competitors' websites. So I've seen one of my competitors, a US company, all their branding has become more and more corporate. So they've got serif fonts. It's obvious they're chasing law firms, or either they're chasing law firms for their business or their branding department is seriously out of line with the rest of the company. I'm not sure which. Another one has gone dark mode. So it's like, dude, your developers are running riot in your business. Why is your business creating a dark mode pattern that developers love and no other humans want? So I'm slightly, mostly, somewhat joking, but so there's that dissonance. Anyway, there's a great team exercise to be had. Then getting together with your team, because at the end of that exercise with your team, you'll emerge not only hopefully with a brand, but you'll emerge with everybody focused on their core mission and what they're looking to deliver, and hopefully in sync. It might lead to all